Hello everyone, welcome back to Beauty by Trish. Today I'm coming to you with my review on the L'Oreal Pro Glow Foundation. I have worn this for 2 weeks. Only this. I think that's a record for me, honestly. I think since I quit doing Mary Kay, that's a record for me, sticking with one foundation for that long. I also asked my mother, who is in her mid-70s. I got her one in her shade. There are 12 shades of these. I do think that that needs to expand a little bit. Maybe they're just releasing 12 shades now to see how it does. But nevertheless, my mother is in her mid-70s, and I did ask her to try it and wear it. She's very picky about her foundations, and I was afraid that the color would be the first hurdle with her because that is her number one thing. She's got a lot of pink in her skin, but she doesn't want too much pink. And the lightest color, which I believe is ivory, was her color, dead on. It looks perfect on her. And spoiler alert, it is her favorite foundation now. So I'm just going to give you a rundown. I did do my first impressions on this when I first got it. I will link that down below in case you didn't get to see that. I have tried it many different ways, application wise. I've tried it with many different primers, and I have used many different setting powders with it. Setting sprays, I really couldn't tell a big difference. This is just really phenomenal makeup, and I can't believe that it's drugstore and I like it this much. So let's just get into what I've been doing. I did do, you guys saw me do it with my black beauty blender, the Beauty Blender Pro. I've used it with that. I've also used it with I'm sorry, it's dirty. This is the Ulta, the newer Ulta face sponge. I want to call everything a beauty blender, but it's the newer Ulta face sponge. Really do like this. I apologize that it's dirty. I just used it a little bit ago. I have also used my Beauty Junkie brush with this foundation. Now with a brush, but I do like this. This is the Beauty Junkie Angled Kabuki. I do like this because I like to really get it in my pores. So I really do like the way this does, this brush. Once again, I apologize that it's dirty, but I like the way it really gets in there, and then I can take it and blend it very easily. This is a very easy foundation to work with. No complaints there. There's very few complaints, if any, with this product. But with this brush, you are going to get a heavier application. So if you're okay with the heavier application, then this is great. If you want a more age-friendly application, if you battle a lot of fine lines and you don't like anything to have the opportunity to settle in there, then I think a face sponge is going to be your best bet. Now, in saying that, I've also used the Sephora 56 brush, and I've also used the Sephora 55 brush. And I liked both of these applications. This one gives you a little bit, I would say you're going to get a closer to a beauty sponge application with this. This gives just a little more of a sheer finish with this brush 55 from Sephora. I also used this Sephora 47, and this my favorite. Now I like for my foundation to be a medium plus to a full. I don't care that it's the dead of summer. That's just like what I like. My favorite application with it is the face sponge, the Beauty Blender, in whichever. I like the Ulta one. I like the Black Beauty Blender Pro very well. As far as these brushes go, I like this one as far as being able to really get it in and get it nicely smoothed into where I want more coverage areas. But this really gives a beautiful application. Now this is the only paddle foundation, flat foundation, whatever you want to call them, brush that I did try this foundation with. But I would say that if you have a flat foundation brush that you enjoy, that it's probably going to do the same thing. But I just really like the way I could get this pressed in here, but just the way it's smoothed on. It was just a beautiful application process with this brush also. So these are my 3 favorite ways to apply the L'Oreal Pro Glow Foundation. Granted, once again, this brush is going to give you a little more coverage. But even when I would use a brush to apply it, I still always go in with this and I go in through my hairline. And the foundation just works beautifully in every way. Hats off to L'Oreal for coming up with such an amazing foundation. Really, really nice. The first thing I usually do is put on my argan oil. Now, I will tell you, the first time I used the argan oil with it, I did notice some places where it looked like it broke apart a little bit. It didn't look bad, or it didn't look horribly blotchy. I could just tell, especially like around my nose, around my mouth, back in this area for some reason. I did notice that. Now that day I applied it with my Beauty Blender sponge. So I was still trying it, still wearing it different ways, and I thought I really got to give this a try. I think I made mention of it because I know a lot of us do use facial oils versus creams. Some people don't like the heaviness of a cream, and of course with an oil it does get absorbed more so into your skin. So what I did then was, I think it was a couple days after that, what I did was I went in with this and I let that sit on my face for a while, because anytime you use an oil, you really should let that sit on your face. And then as my primer, I used this, which is the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer Oil. I put that on top. I let that set. And then I went in with my foundation and I finished my routine. I did not notice the breaking apart. I did not notice any of that. But that day I used a brush. I used this brush, which gave me a little more coverage. So I did notice a big difference. So I think if you are a person that likes to use oils in your routine prior to applying your foundation, that it would be better maybe to try going in with a brush. My face had felt really dry. I used the wrong mask. Long story. So I went in with this, let it dry. Went in with this. I let that set. And then, which this is my Bobbi Brown Hydrating Face Cream. I took a little bit of the primer. I took a little bit of the Smashbox Primer Oil and I actually mixed it in with the foundation, which I've done with several of my other foundations, my Milani being one. But this is a thinner consistency. But I did that. I applied it with the Beauty Blender. Actually, I used the Ulta one that I showed you that was dirty, and I'm not going to show you again. And the wear was beautiful. I set it with my powder. I always do. I always set my foundation with a powder. So it worked beautifully with an oil. I do recommend, if you're going to use an oil, that you do give it enough time to set and before you go in with your foundation. I've also a couple times used it on really hot days that I was going to be outside, like if I was dog training or something. I've used the Cetaphil Oil Controlling Moisturizer because I have noticed that I get a little bit oily right in the T-zone, but everywhere else is so dry. And I know I don't drink enough water, and that's some of it too, but this does have an SPF, so it wears nicely on top of SPFs. I have also used it on a Smashbox Pore Minimizer. Just put that in like my T-zone. It's wore nicely. I have it on top of my Cover FX, my anti-aging primer. That's what I have it on over today. Works beautifully. This was in my first impressions. This is the Nivea Skin Skin Shaving Balm. Works beautifully over that. I have used it over the Becca Backlighting Filter Primer. I think I said that right. Oh my goodness. Beautiful. Just beautiful. I really enjoyed it. But you have to like a little bit of, and it was really, really pretty. I have also used this as a primer. This is my It Cosmetics CC. I needed the SPF of 50, and it wore beautifully over this. And this and the L'Oreal played very, very nicely together. So I was really pleased. A lot of people have trouble going from spring to summer. Foundations changing. You don't want to buy a bunch of different foundations. I mixed it with a few foundations. Now with these, the ones that I chose to mix it with, I wasn't really necessarily going for finish. I was going for texture and consistency versus the other. So I did mix it with its own Infallible Pro Matte. This was a really pretty finish for me. It did mix very nicely consistency wise with that. It didn't affect the wear. It didn't affect or break down or change too much of any of these. They all played very nicely together. I also mixed it with my L'Oreal True Match Lumi. Very nice. It almost gave it just a little bit of a boost, but if you have really, really dry skin, like my mother loves looks like that, so she would have really liked it. But this gave it a nice little edge. Prettiest finish that I got with that, as far as mixing wise, was with this. It really brought this down, and it just did something to it. It just really gave it this zhuzh that really made this the prettiest I've ever. I always use my Smashbox oil with this, and I didn't need to do any of that because the Pro Glow just did something to this that just made it phenomenal. I loved it like that. So, and I did mix it with my EX1 foundation. I love this foundation alone. It could stand alone and be just fine, but oh, those two together, beautiful. I will be doing a lot more of that this fall and winter. But if you have issues any time of the year with dull, dry looking skin, and you just feel like it doesn't even slightly look healthy, then these two together were amazing. This with the Lumi would be really nice as a result on a dull skin type too. But these two together were just gorgeous, gorgeous together. When I try foundation, I know some people just put the foundation on and do a wear test. I don't do that because I always use a primer, I always use a powder, and I always use a setting spray. I'm going to give even a new foundation the same benefit and options that I give one that I wear every day. So I used a few different powders, and I will tell you right now my two favorite ones, actually my three favorite ones, were these. The Rimmel Stay Matte, Infallible, and Makeup Forever. Now I'm going to tell you the two that I tried that I did not care for. Mary Kay Mineral Foundation, which I use as a setting powder a lot. I use the Milani. Humidity and the heat made these just look cakey. These were just too heavy. It just made it look cakey, whereas these didn't. The Makeup Forever, you guys have seen, heard, read all about this. It's just a wonderful product. I love it for setting under my eyes. It's a great product. It kept it looking good. It kept it looking fresh. Heat of the day, dog training, this sealed it right in. Same with the Stay Matte. Now, of course, with the Stay Matte, if you weren't careful, you could probably build it up a little too much, but I didn't have any issues. I did like this with this foundation. Now, the Infallible Pro Matte, I'm hoping they come out with a Pro Glow powder because that would be phenomenal. But the Pro Matte, I really liked the finish. I really liked how long it wore it out, but I had to be really careful and not put this on too heavy because then it didn't get cakey, but it wasn't as flattering. So I had to be careful with this one just because I get heavy-handed. Nothing to do bad with the product. So all in all, this is absolutely my favorite drugstore foundation ever. I love this foundation. It is amazing. It looks beautiful. It doesn't settle into any of my fine lines. It does not accentuate my pores. It wore all day. It was just beautiful. It played nice with the rest of my makeup. It kept my bronzer and my blush on point. I love this foundation. I cannot recommend this enough, unless you have oily skin. I know, though, when I had oily skin, you could not have paid me to try this foundation. If you have oily skin, you don't want additional glow. You don't want any kind of additional glow. I think if you have combination skin, you could probably use a mattifier and be okay with anything you got from this glow-wise. Normal, dry, normal, dry, dry, dry. You're really gonna like this. I mentioned that I had my mom to try this, and she really likes this foundation. She's very cautious about any foundation that is settling into any lines or enhancing anything that she does not want enhanced, and she loved this. I've never known my mom to wear foundation every day, and she wore this every day. She's always been a Mary Kay girl, but there was another one she had been trying, and I can't remember the name of it, but she actually did a side-by-side, 2 different days, and this on one side, the other one on the other side, and was seeing if anybody could notice, and she just absolutely loves this. This is just like her favorite too, which is phenomenal because it is hard to get her a foundation that she likes. So yeah, so absolutely 12 shades, $12.99 at Ulta. I think it's the same at Walmart, and I think it's a little bit more at like a drugstore. Target, it's $12.99 too. But I'm telling you, it is a great foundation. Unless you have oily skin, I think you're really going to love this. I really do. Double thumbs up. L'Oreal, you did a great job. Thanks guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below, and I will talk to you in the next video.